Alabama, Don't Stop, Mississippi, Possum Point, Georgia, Miami.
Who's Amy?
Miami.
Hey, you mean your Amy?
Bo Hunkers.
Bo hookers?
Bo Hunkers.
Bo hunkers?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Hoboken.
Hoboken. Oh, well, Mr. Conductor, I want to go to Hot Town.
Hot Town?
Yes, sir.
That's the last stop.
Last-
All aboard.
All right, sir.
And it's Scuff, and we haven't even started yet. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Man, translation chance, not having any of it. I'm not having any of it. We're doing great. Welcome. If you haven't been part of these streams before, this is Crime and Punishment, and my name is Tethercat. I love this game. I love this game so much. Now, this is a game from 1984, as you can see on the screen. And we're going to be playing it, because that's literally the reason why we're here. Tonight, I've also enabled open voice chat, which means that we may have some guest visitors joining the stream as well. So that's a possibility we can all look forward to, is the bailiffs, should they arrive and wish to join in. Until then, we're going to be playing the game on our own. The game itself goes like this. It is a courtroom, and we are the judge. All the cases are guilty, and it's up to us to hear what the details of these crimes are, and then pass a judgment of a sentence and a length of sentence. So we could issue a 99-year in prison, or we could issue a month in probation. As well, there's the midway point of, say, 20 years in jail. We never issue the death penalty. House rules are that we never issue the death penalty. Does not happen. As well, another house rule, and this one is key, is that if there are sensitive cases, cases that myself or the bailiffs deem sensitive, we will not try that case. We'll just blitz past it. We won't even acknowledge it, and we'll just run next. This game is from 1984. The language is sensitive, so this is a game that should be viewed. Parental guidance, let's put it that way. It's a PG game. This game is one of my favorites. But keep all of that in mind with a grain of salt. The cases are about 10 minutes in length, ballpark. And let's hop into the first case, shall we? Court is now in session. Your rating will be affected by how much and what kind of information you choose. I'm going to increase the volume of the music a little. Well, I usually play around with the volume. Volume goes up, volume goes down. All right. Oh, that's not what I wanted. You're not the button I'm looking for. There we go. The defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of securities fraud.
Tethercat said crime, securities fraud.
Yeah, we're into the first case of the evening, everybody. Just managing my desktop a little better so that I have a hold on things. The defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of securities fraud. Let's look at the details of this crime. Actually, I bet I could lower that there and pull that up there, and that should be good. We're going to look, as always, at a set grouping of how this game is played. We always look at demographics. We want to see who it is, who's the guilty party. The demographics are: the offender is a 41-year-old Caucasian male. The victims are the state and the people. Okay, so the guy is 41 years old. The offender-victim relationship: society is the victim. The weapon used in physical injury was none. The property damage or loss was $500,000 in securities fraud. And the excuse given for this crime: the offender said he needed money for a friend's sex change operation. Okay. Actually, I bet I can. So I'm still trying to maximize my my desktop space here a little. There we go. That should be good. Now then, let's back out. So we got a 41-year-old who committed $500,000 in securities fraud. Let's take a look at the offender's criminal record. And we're going to look at his adult prior crime types. Those crimes include drunk driving. The prior arrests and convictions for this 41-year-old man are that he has had 2 recorded prior arrests and 1 recorded prior conviction. His fugitive status on the day of the crime is that he's wanted by the FBI. We're going to take a look at the offender's reputation. And the offender, in 1984, is sexually aberrant. Now, typically we make a judgment call on whether or not we want to look at the juvenile court blotter. If it's a young person at the sentencing, then we'll take a look, but usually if they're a little older, then it doesn't bear much relevance. Asterisk, house rule is that if it's ever a case of murder or death, we look at all facts regardless. In this case, this 41-year-old man, I don't think the juvenile court blotter is going to play into this, so we can ignore that. The pre-sentence report. And we're going to take a look at the details of this 41-year-old man. The offender is unmarried. He shoots dope, and he is a self-educated citizen. And the way that this one works out for personal details is that the first entry is always marital status, whether he's single, married, widower, or what have you. Addiction status, so maybe they're addicted to caffeine or nothing or glue or dope. And finally, education status. And in this case, this individual is a self-educated citizen. So those are those 3, and they'll be a recurring theme. That's personal details. He's unmarried, he shoots dope, and he is a self-educated citizen. The employment history is that he's a software distributor. Oh. We're going to take a look at the courtroom prosecution details. The defendant says, "I'm sorry." The defendant was also defended by a private attorney. So he did $500,000 in securities fraud, and he's sorry. Oh, gosh. One of the optionals that we have are offender's upbringing and offender's mental history. And we usually play it by ear whether or not we feel that's relevant to the case or not. In this instance, I don't think that the offender's upbringing is relevant, and I don't think that the mental history is relevant. We're now done. What we're going to do next is review the case. We're going to go through all the known facts through a clipboard that has all the details we've just seen. During this time, anyone in chat, please feel free to play along, make your own assessment of what you would judge this character as, and whether you would sentence this person to prison, jail, or probation. And for how long? What is the length of sentence that you would do for prison, jail, or probation? With that said, let's review the known facts with the Clipboard of Justice. We can turn down that music a little. There we go. Pardon me. The Clipboard of Justice. In the crime of securities fraud, the property damage or loss was $500,000. Society is the victim. There was no personal injury. The offender is a 41-year-old male. The victims are the state and the people. The offender said he needed money for a friend's sex change operation. The offender is wanted by the FBI. The offender is sexually aberrant. Prior crimes include drunk driving. The offender has had 2 recorded prior arrests and 1 recorded prior conviction. The defendant says, "I'm sorry." The defendant was defended by a private attorney. The offender is unmarried, shoots dope, is a self-educated citizen, and is a software distributor. And there we go. There we have it. That is the case of securities fraud. And now we're going to reach our decision. This is where we get to debate what we think is going to happen. Either I will do this, or I will do this with people in chat, or I will do this with people who attend the open voice. Here we go. The crime is securities fraud, $500,000. This 41-year-old man has had prior arrests and convictions, but it seems somewhat unrelated. He is, however, wanted by the FBI. I can only imagine that the security fraud that he has done might have put him on their path. In the crime of securities fraud, I feel like this is a prison sentence, and given that it's $500,000, I feel that a hefty sentence would be warranted. Not a light 1-year prison sentence, but something with a little bit more meat behind it. I'm thinking that I would like to sentence this individual to prison, and I would like to sentence this individual to... if 1 year is too light, and I definitely do not want to do 20 years, because that's hefty. 10 years might be a good average, but... I think I'm going to do 7 years and 6 months. 7.5 years of prison for this person for doing $500,000 worth of securities fraud. You know what? He did own up. He owned up. He said he did it. He was sorry, and he did it for a friend's sex change operation. So because he actually pleaded guilt, I'm actually going to reduce that by 6 months and just put it to 7 years of prison time. And there we have it. For those of you playing along, this is your chance to judge how we're going to do this. And what happens is we have our score, which is this. We're guessing 7 years prison time. This green judge will also pass a sentence of his thoughts, and then we will weigh it on a scale of justice, whether we were equal, lighter, or heavier. Let's see how we did. Apparently, this judge would have only issued just under 3 years of prison, and our sentence was a lot heavier than his. When we play this game, our scale could be lighter, our scale could be heavier, or our scale could be even. Should the scales run even, there is a game instituted, a personal Tethercat instituted game moment, which we call the Symmetrical Duck Award, because this looks like a duck beak, and those would look like duck eyes. So whenever we get an equal sentence, we go into the Symmetrical Duck Award. However, we did not get that this time around. We said 7 years of prison. They said 3 years of prison. Let's see how we score. Well, we get a little song and ditty. And unfortunately, we only got...
Tethercat said gavels, 4, judicial IQ, 73.
And that's how this game runs, everybody. That's it. Like, we're just into the game, and those cases are only about 10 minutes long. So, now that you know how the flow goes, now that you know what's going on, please, by all means, join in. If you're watching on chat, you can type in what you think would be well, first of all, if you're in chat, you can just type in anything in chat. But secondly, if you're in chat, you can type in what you think would be a sentence and a length of sentence. Now it's time for our next case. The defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of arson.
Tethercat said crime, arson.
All right. I almost want to... Nah, we're fine as is. Let's take a look at the details of this crime. Sorry, I got distracted by a something. It's all good. That's why these are scuff streams, because no one watches these streams and I'm able to do whatever I can. The defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of arson. Let's take a look at the details of this crime. And we're going to look at the demographics. The offender is a 41-year-old white male. The victims are the state and the people. Let's take a look at the offender-victim relationship. The offender had no knowledge of the victim. The weapon used physical injury? None. However, property damage or loss in this case of arson, $52,000. The excuse given for this crime? The offender said he did it for publicity. Well. I mean, it's 2024 and you're on the YouTubes, so it worked. These are all fake cases, by the way. The offender's criminal record. We're going to look at the adult prior crime types, and specific crime type of information is unavailable. We're going to look at prior arrests and convictions. None. Clean as a whistle. This 41-year-old man has never done anything that he's been arrested or convicted of. And he had he just wanted to do it to become famous. He did arson for $52,000. The fugitive status on the day of the crime is that he has no detainers. Let's take a look at the offender's reputation. The offender is also known as the Doc. Well, I don't think we need to look at the juvenile court blotter on this. The Doc seems to be pretty clean. But we'll take a look at the pre-sentence report. And we're going to look at his personal details. The offender is recently married, he smokes cigars, and he is a seminarian. The employment history is that he's a police officer? Hello, what? With this game, every now and then, a stray detail can throw the entire narrative out of whack. The crime is arson. The suspect has had nothing wrong. It's a squeaky clean suspect. They wanted to do it for publicity and fame. They did arson for $51,000, and they're a police officer. Interesting. We're going to take a look at the courtroom prosecution details. The defendant gave up his Confederates in arson? The defendant was defended by a public defender. Do we need to look at the offender's upbringing or mental history? I don't think so. So, when we get to this level, we can review the known facts, but typically those of us who play try to construct our own narratives. And sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, sometimes we do whatever. I'm going to posit. No, posit, as if positive, P-O-S-I-T, posit. I'm going to posit that our police officer here was acting very much like a 1980s action star, such as Arnold Schwarzenegger or Mel Gibson. And they were playing a police officer who was going rogue. You're suspended, Johnson. Now you're off the case. And Johnson goes and tries to defeat the baddies all by himself. And just happens to set arson for $51,000. I can see where that narrative would come up here. The guy seems squeaky clean. And he gave up his Confederates. He's like, well, yeah, I totally had to go and defeat Mr. Big, the bad guy. Also, I had some help from Schnauzer, the wonder dog. So, yeah. Yeah, that's my narrative, is that this police officer was doing a 1980s action flick style takedown, and that's where this 51,000 arson came in. Let's review the known facts. In the case of arson, the property damage or loss was $52,000. The offender had no knowledge of the victim. There was no personal injury. The offender is a 41-year-old male. The victims are the state and the people. The offender said he did it for publicity. The offender has no detainers. The offender is also known as the Doc. Although specific crime type of information is unavailable, the defendant has had no prior recorded arrests and no prior recorded convictions. The defendant gave up his Confederates. The defendant was defended by a public defender. The offender is recently married, smokes cigars, is a seminarian, and the offender is a police officer. Well, that's it. There you have it, everybody. This is the crime of arson. Once again, now it's time to reach a decision. I'm thinking that arson is a pretty bad crime. Like, it really is. It's not probation worthy. And as much as I would like to sentence prison, I feel that because of the squeaky clean record of this police officer and the fact that he gave up his Confederates, I feel that a jail sentence would be the most viable, but it would have to be a little hefty. I'm going to say 36 months of jail. That's like 3 years of jail right there. Put the police officer behind bars for 3 years of jail. He could get out with time for good behavior. I'm sure he'll be an upstanding member of that community. Let's see how we scored. Ooh, 10 years of prison, says this judge. Whew. Yes, we were a little light on our sentencing. Well, no symmetrical duck awards here. Let's take a look at how we scored. Once again, we received only 4 gavels. You might be ready to handle traffic court. Try some more cases to improve your score. Oh, thanks. Well, now.
Tethercat said gavels, 4, judicial IQ, 73.
And at this time, I think we're going to take a hydration check. Hydration check, everybody.
Tethercat said hydration check.
Right before stream, I made some craft dinner for dinner. They don't come out with craft breakfast or craft lunch, I'll tell you that. I had some craft dinner, a big bowl of craft dinner. So I'm a little bloaty. That's fine. All good for the belly, isn't it? Now then, yeah, let's hop into the next case. Now, I mentioned before that these were fake cases, and that's true. How this game runs is that in 1984, the people who created this game compiled many cases, an absolute astronomical number of cases, and they compiled them into this database. They wrote an algorithm, and that's this game in a nutshell. So it draws from real cases, but it basically jumbles them up, spits out a hypothetical, and then we get to play and compare our judgment to this fake Judge Wapner looking fellow. That's how the back end. That's how the game mechanics work. Now it's time for our next case. Remember, it is how much and what kind of information that is important. The defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of burglary of a business.
Tethercat said crime, burglary of a business.
By the way, you'll find that as we get later into the evening, and the more that I talk, the more I yawn. I tried at one point to create a yawn counter, and it didn't quite work out. All right, let's look at the details of this crime. Actually, you know what I can do? Let me see if I can... Where's Spout? Where's my Spout? I'm going to increase my size. We don't have any other bailiffs happening right now, so I don't think there's going to be a loss. Put me right there. Sure. Works. Really increase my resolution. At least until a bailiff arrives, and then that'll pull me right back down. The defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of burglary of a business. Let's take a look at the details of this crime. And we're going to look at the demographics. The offender is a 58-year-old white Protestant male. The victims are the state and the people. The offender-victim relationship is that the offender gave no thought to any of the victims. The weapon used physical injury? None. The property damage or loss was $350. Small beans. And the excuse given for this crime. The offender said he had to have $350 for a gambling debt. Okay. Let's take a look at the offender's criminal record. I'm going to yawn again. Ooh. The offender's criminal record is such that the adult prior crime types. Did I hit that right? Adult prior crime types. The offender has also committed white-collar crimes. I don't think I've ever seen this one. The offender has also committed white-collar crimes. Prior arrests and convictions are, whoa. 12 recorded prior arrests and 6 recorded prior convictions. This guy, he has seen the system. This man knows incarceration. Let's take a look at the fugitive status on the day of the crime, and that he had just left an alcohol detoxification program when the burglary of a business came into play. Let's take a look at the Let's take a look at the offender's reputation. And the offender is also known as Babyface. Aw. I don't think we need to look at this man's juvenile court blotter. I am curious again how old he is, and it says here he's 58 years old. Babyface is 58 years old. Look at the pre-sentence report. Yeah, we're going to take a look at the courtroom. No, we're looking at the personal details. Personal details of this 58-year-old Babyface are: he is divorced, he doesn't drink, he is a kindergarten dropout. That's right, everybody. This guy dropped out of kindergarten. That's interesting. Babyface. And he dropped out of kindergarten and never aged a day. His employment history is that he's a private investigator. Okay, teenagers are the only ones allowed in this club. Are you a teenager? Am I? Says this 58-year-old Babyface man, private investigator. You'd think that this guy would know law, and perhaps he does. The courtroom prosecution details. The defendant was held in contempt of court. What kind of private investigator is this guy? A radio commentator calls you soft. And now we can look at offender's upbringing or mental history. I don't like it when the defendant was held in contempt of court. That shows some sort of mental discrepancy, let's call it. So I want to take a look at the mental history of this individual who committed the crime, burglary of a business. The offender is neurotic. He is a compulsive hand washer. Wow. Okay. So this clean freak, maybe he's trying to clean his hands of fingerprints because he's always burglarying businesses. Truthfully, I feel like this is the main character from the Bernie Rodenbar series of books by Gregory MacDonald. Flynn. No, not Flynn. Flynn was the spy. There was Fletch, who was the journalist. There was Flynn, who was the spy. And then there was Bernie Rodenbar, who was the burglar. Excellent series. Gregory MacDonald. You get a chance, go read those. Let's review the known facts. I'm pretty sure that this burglar / private investigator is going to be doing a lot of illegal things to get what he needs for his private investigations. In the crime of burglary of a business, the property damage or loss was $350. The offender gave no thought to any victims, and there was no personal injury. The offender is a 58-year-old man. The victims are the state and the people.
Minimi96 said, "Hey Tethercat, hope you're still doing well. Unfortunately my Wi-Fi isn't working properly. Just stopping by to see ya again and wish you luck. Have a great stream and weekend."
Absolutely, Minimi. Thanks for showing up, Jury Foreman Minimi. You have a great time as well. I hope your Wi-Fi gets better. You have a great stream and a great weekend too. We'll see you on the flip side. No worries. Getting back to the case. I accidentally hit a button. Let's run through it again. In the crime of burglary of a business, the property damage or loss was $350. The offender gave no thought to any victims, and there was no personal injury. The offender is a 58-year-old man. The victims are the state and the people. And the offender said he had to have money for a gambling debt. The offender left an alcohol detoxification program. The offender is also known as Babyface. The offender has also committed white-collar crimes. He has had 12 recorded prior arrests and 6 recorded prior convictions. The defendant was held in contempt of court. A radio commentator calls you soft. The offender is neurotic. He is a compulsive hand washer. The offender is divorced, doesn't drink, is a kindergarten dropout, and he is a private investigator. All right, hold on a sec. He doesn't drink? The offender doesn't drink? But he left an alcohol detoxification program. And he was found in contempt of court just now. All right. The narrative holds. If you can think back to all and every one of your crime noir, film noir crime dramas, whether it's Sam Spade or effectively Philip Marlowe, any of the Dashiell Hammett or Marlowe, Raymond Chandler detectives, any of these guys, they were all hard-edged. They were all hard-drinking. They would bend the law to get their suspect. I totally adhere to the narrative that this private investigator was just simply doing some business, a little bit risky, got caught, as he usually does, having 12 recorded arrests and 7 recorded prior convictions. I think that although the crime burglary of a business only warranted $350, he has done this a lot. He's done this a lot. He's old. I don't think probation is an option. I can't justify jail time for what this guy has done. I think we have to basically send a message to this private investigator to say, yeah, you should know better. So let's send this guy to prison. And the burglary of a business, which is somewhat of a serious crime, let's just put it at, say, 1.5 years of prison time. And we're certain that he's going to get out on good behavior, of course. But let's just put it at 1.5 years of prison time and see how we do. Oh, prison, 2 years, 11 months. We were actually a little light. I thought we were going to be a little heavy. It was only $350, but I guess this judge saw things a little bit different than we did. Let's take a look at how he scored. Well, he got 5 gavels. Not bad. You received 5 gavels. Keep practicing. This isn't small claims court.
Tethercat said gavels, 5, judicial IQ, 81.
Well, we're slowly climbing that judicial IQ ladder. Yeah, 5 gavels. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Hold on a sec. Can I mute before I sneeze? And I might sneeze again. Maybe. I'm sorry about that. Oof. It's always fun seeing the little Tethercat avatar flail around, isn't it? Alright, let's I might get a sniffly nose, so I might have to mute again so I can blow my nose. Let's take a look at the next crime. Now it's time for your next case. Remember, it is how much and what kind of information that is important. Actually, I'm going to blow my nose before we do this, so bear with me one moment. Oh, that's a little better. And just to be certain, I'm a Canadian, everybody. I'm gonna take some Buckleys. Buckleys will cure everything. Okay. Nothing says Canada like craft dinner and Buckleys. Okay, everybody. Now it's time for the next case. Remember, it is how much and what kind of information that is important. The crime is to be sentenced. The defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of non-support of dependents.
Tethercat said crime, non-support of dependents.
And we're going to take a look at the details of this crime. Let's look at the demographics. The offender is a 50-year-old black male. The victims were the offender's family. The offender-victim relationship is defined by the crime. The weapon used in physical injury was none. The property damage or loss was $640. Non-support of dependents. The excuse given for this crime? He said he needed money to support a drug habit. Well, let's take a look at the offender's criminal record. This 50-year-old man, his adult prior crime types include traffic offenses. His prior arrests and convictions are 4 recorded arrests and 4 recorded prior convictions. His fugitive status on the day of the crime is that this 50-year-old man was wanted by the military police. And the offender's reputation, he's a religious fanatic. Wow. What was his religion? We typically don't look at ethnicity or religion unless they come into play, and in this case, demographics, this 50-year-old man, it doesn't say. He was just religious. He's a religious fanatic is what he is. Well, let's take a look at the pre-sentence report. His personal details. The 50-year-old man is judicially separated. He's frequently intoxicated, and he is a high school graduate. His employment history is that he's a civil servant. The courtroom prosecution details. Trial evidence revealed the defendant as a ringleader. Ooh. The media blasts soft judges. Do we need to look at the offender's upbringing or mental history? I don't think either of those would come into play on this case. He is a religious fanatic, so actually let's take a look at his mental history. The offender is excessively introverted. Okay. Well, there we have it. Once again, we're gonna assess what we know, but first, let's review the known facts through the clipboard of justice. In the crime of non-support of dependents, the property damage or loss was $640. The offender-victim relationship is defined by the crime. There was no personal injury. The offender is a 50-year-old man. The victims were the offender's family. The offender said he needed money to support a drug habit. The offender is wanted by the military police. The offender is a religious fanatic. Prior crimes include traffic offenses, and he has had 4 recorded arrests prior and 4 recorded prior convictions. Trial evidence revealed the defendant as a ringleader. Excuse me. The media blast soft judges. The offender is excessively introverted. The offender is judicially separated, is frequently intoxicated, and is a high school graduate. As well, the offender is a civil servant. And that there is the case of non-support of dependents. In the last 45 seconds, I've been tripping over my words frequently, so I've got a tickle in my throat. All right, so it was for $600. This 50-year-old man wasn't supporting his family. And, yeah, I don't know. I just, he's a civil servant, so he can afford it. So I think if we put him in probation, that will allow him to continue on servicing his family while also allowing him to work. So let's put him on probation, but let's do it for a lengthy amount of time. Let's put him on probation for 12 years. Because this man, he has seen some stuff in the system, and we want to make sure that his family is well taken care of. Actually, no, 12 years. The guy's 60. Let's drop it to 8 years. Let's do 8 years of probation. If he can't figure his stuff out, all right, 8 years of probation. Let's see how we do. 6 years and 1 month of probation. We're getting closer, but anyway, I'm glad I didn't go for 12 years probation. Let's take a look at how he scored. Well done. You received 7 gavels. Sharpen your skills with another case.
Tethercat said gavels, 7, judicial IQ, 93.
All right. I would go for a hydration check, but I just had some Buckleys and water would kill me. So we'll do a hydration check on the next one. Until then, now it's time for our next case. Music is really low. I'm not going to win with the music, so let's bring it up to that level. Now it's time for our next case. Remember, it's how much and what kind of information that's important. And the defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of mail fraud. See?
Tethercat said crime, mail fraud.
I pulled the volume up and then the music got loud again, so I got to put the volume back down. These are the days of our lives. In the crime of mail fraud, let's take a look at the details. And we're going to look at the demographics. The offender is a 27-year-old Hispanic Catholic male. The victims are the state and the people. The offender-victim relationship. Society is the victim. The weapon used physical injury. There was none. Property damage or loss. $22,000 of mail fraud. Wow. How old was this guy? 27 years old. And the excuse given for this crime is that he said he didn't do it. He said he did not do mail fraud for $22,000. 27 years old. Let's take a look at the criminal record. And we're going to take a look at this 27-year-old's adult prior crime types. It's unavailable. The prior arrests and convictions, none and none. Clean. very clean. He said he didn't do it, and he's had no priors. His fugitive status on the day of the crime, he left a drug detoxification program. The offender's reputation is that he's also known as the Brain. Well, if he's going to operate mail fraud, which he was caught and is being charged for, he might just be the Brain. I don't think we need to look at juvenile court blotter. So we'll take a look at the pre-sentence report and find out what this 27-year-old man's personal details are. The offender is unwed. He is addicted to heroin. Remember, he did leave a drug detoxification program on the day of the crime. He also has a high school equivalence diploma. His employment history is that he's an itinerant. He goes from place to place to place, doesn't really have a job. The courtroom prosecution details. The probation officer recommends leniency. Letters to you urge leniency. Everyone wants leniency for this guy. So, do we want to look at the offender's upbringing or mental history? Honestly, I don't feel that either of them pertain to this case, so I'd be happy to let them slide. 27 years old, and he operated a mail fraud scheme. So if he's an itinerant, that means he can just kind of float around and then occasionally check a mailbox and send and receive postcards and other mail fraud things for the amount of $22,000. I think that's a good narrative that we can run with. So let's review the known facts. In the case of mail fraud, the property damage or loss was $22,000. Society is the victim. There was no personal injury. The offender is a 27-year-old male. The victims are the state and the people. The offender said he didn't do it. The offender left a drug detoxification program. The offender is also known as the Brain. Specific crime type of information is unavailable, but he has had no recorded prior arrests or convictions. The probation officer recommends leniency, and letters to you urge leniency. The offender is unwed, is addicted to heroin, has a high school equivalence diploma, and the offender is an itinerant. And there we have it. The crime is mail fraud. I don't think this is tampering with the U.S. mail postal system. I think it's just doing fraud over mail. I believe that fraud is I want to say it's a federal crime, and that usually warrants prison. He's a squeaky clean individual, but clean is somewhat of a misnomer as he is addicted to heroin, and he did leave a drug detoxification program at the time of the crime. He's an itinerant, operating a mail fraud scheme. I can't bring myself to judge this guy too harshly, but $22,000 is a hefty amount of money, and he should pay. So I feel like if we're doing prison, then it should be for a short amount of time, maybe 1.5 years of prison. Once again, I'm going to go light on the prison sentence. 1.5 years of prison. $22,000. And he's only getting such a low mark because he has a squeaky clean record. I mean, if it weren't so much, like if it weren't $22,000, I'd give this guy probation. But $22,000, that's a lot of money. Let's see how he did. Jail, 4 months and 12 days. Well, mine is definitely a little heavier, but it's still exceedingly light as far as prison sentences go. And he could get out with time for good behavior. Let's find out what our score is. Only one gavel? Perhaps you should study medicine.
Tethercat said gavels, 1, judicial IQ, 77.
All right, well, I said I was going to do a hydration check, so let's do a hydration check, everybody.
Tethercat said hydration check.
Ah, there we are. How's my volume? My volume good? My volume a little low? I think my volume's all right. Okay. We're coming up on the top of the hour. We'll do another case. It'll be the top of the hour. Now it's time for our next case. Remember, it is how much and what kind of information that is important. The defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of prostitution.
Tethercat said crime, prostitution.
And we're going to take a look at the details of this crime. The demographics are that the offender is an 18-year-old Hispanic woman. The victims are the state and the people. Now keep in mind, everybody, when we get to low ages such as 18, 17, and 18, we don't know if it's just turned 18 and 1 day old, or if it's on the tail end of 18 and 363 days old. So keep in mind that this young person here, we will be taking a look at some of those younger demographics we don't get a chance to usually look at. The crime is prostitution. The offender is an 18-year-old Hispanic woman. The victims are the state and the people. The offender-victim relationship, society is the victim. Weapon-used physical injury was none. The property damage or loss was none. The excuse given for the crime of prostitution, she said she had to have money for a gambling debt. This 18-year-old is gambling already, is she? Yeah. Looks like she's fallen into hard times. The offender's criminal record. Again, keep in mind, she's being tried as an adult. She's 18 years old. Her adult prior crime types include felonies. The prior arrests and convictions for this 18-year-old being tried as an adult are 6 recorded prior arrests and 1 recorded prior conviction. That's a lot of arrests for an 18-year-old. The fugitive status on the day of the crime, she has no holds, and the offender's reputation is that she is a stoolie. All right, with that said, we definitely have to take a look at the juvenile court blotter because it is of relevance. In her earlier years, before being tried as an adult, the offender's juvenile offenses included truancy. Oh. Okay. Let's take a look at the pre-sentence report. And we're going to take a look at the personal details. This 18-year-old woman is widowed. Oh, my condolences indeed. She drinks a lot of tea, and she is a law school applicant. Well, good for you. Try and get in on law school. Knowing the law is the best way to know the law. Her employment history is that, well, this 18-year-old can't hold down a job. Probably because she's getting arrested and convicted far too often. The courtroom prosecution details is that she gave the police information on other serious crimes. A mayoral candidate called this a test case for the system. And we're also going to look at the offender's upbringing. I think that's a relevant one. The offender, this 18-year-old woman, was a bastard child and was raised on a ranch in California. I don't think that we need to look at the mental history, though. And that's it for the crime of prostitution. Let's review the clipboard of justice. In the crime of prostitution, there was no monetary loss. Society is the victim. There was no personal injury. The offender is an 18-year-old Hispanic woman. The victims are the state and the people. The offender said she had to have money for a gambling debt. The offender has no holds. The offender is a stoolie. Prior crimes include felonies. The offender's juvenile offenses include truancy. She has had 6 recorded prior arrests and 1 recorded prior conviction. The defendant gave the police information on other serious crimes. A mayoral candidate calls this a test case for the system. The offender was a bastard child and was raised on a ranch in California. The offender is widowed, drinks a lot of tea, is a law school applicant, and cannot hold down a job. Well, if we look at it in the lens of rehabilitation, I believe that probation is definitely an option here. She's only 18 years old, and although she has had numerous recorded prior arrests and one conviction, I really feel like she may have been dealt a bad hand, and she could turn a good corner. With no personal injury and no monetary loss, it's somewhat of a victimless crime, with her being possibly the only victim. So I feel that probation is the way that we should run this one. And with that, with it being a probation sentence, I think that 4 years would be good to keep tabs on her, get her the help she needs, allow her to rehabilitate back into society, and hopefully get that law school application. Let's take a look at how he scored. The game crashed. When the game crashes, we have a house rule that's an honorary 10 gavels. Unfortunately, with the game crashing, we're going to have to reboot the system. This is a good time for everybody to get settled in, to hunker down. It's going to be another couple of minutes before this is ready. Gavels. Honorary 10.
Tethercat said gavels, honorary 10, judicial IQ, honorary 199.
And yes, this is where we're going to wait for about, I guess, 3 to 5 minutes. The game does take a little bit of time to load up. This seems like as good a time to do a mini Zatsudan. And we're coming into the top of the hour, no less. About a week ago, my back threw out because I'm an old man. And I have been in utter and complete agony for the past week, doing whatever I can to just not be in pain. And as of this morning, around 5 a.m., my back reset. And it was absolutely glorious. I was so ecstatic that my back reset. Unfortunately, I got bad sleep last night. I did eat well today, and I've had some craft dinner, so, I mean, you can judge for yourself whether or not craft dinner is good or not, but I've been eating. I have been resting. My back feels wonderful, which is fantastic. Let's, fingers crossed, keep it that way. And most importantly, I've been able to stream. Now, Bluesky happened, which was the Twitter migration that happened this week. I joined in on that. Hello to anyone watching from Bluesky. And I really, really wanted to stream this week and introduce Bluesky users to the magic of crime and punishment. And this is the first chance we've had to have quite a bit of streaming today, being the weekend, being Saturday. So, welcome aboard anyone who's watching. This is my favorite game, I would say. I've clocked more hours into this game. I have played with more friends on this game than at any time in the past decade. And there's the music. Deafening music. And we're back in. We're going to play some Crime and Punishment. So, it's the top of the hour. Welcome. It's like you never left. Is it really the top of the hour? Oh my God, we're just seconds into the top of the hour. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. This is Crime and Punishment for those just tuning in. And we're going to play by starting a fresh new game. Court is resuming session. Our rating will be affected by how much and what kind of information we choose. The defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of marijuana use.
Tethercat said crime, marijuana use.
And we're going to take a look at the details of this crime. The demographics are that the offender is a 52-year-old Oriental male. The victims are the state and the people. We're going to take a look at the offender-victim relationship. There was none. The weapon used physical injury was none, and the property damage or loss was none. The excuse given for this 1984-esque crime, that the offender said he was upset at his mother's death. My condolences. Let's take a look at the offender's criminal record. I can't believe this is going to criminal record. Welcome to 1984, everybody. We're going to take a look at the adult prior crime types. Specific crime type of information is unavailable. However, this aged man has had no prior arrests or convictions. This guy's squeaky clean. Fugitive status on the day of the crime. Canada requests extradition. The offender's reputation is that he's a regular churchgoer. This guy, he claims his mother died, and so he smoked. And that's it. That's the crime so far. The pre-sentence report. We're going to take a look at his personal details. He's single, he drinks a lot of tea, and he is an expellee from a boarding school. His employment history is that he's a shop steward, so this guy has a job. This guy, so far, he's a relatively good guy. The court and prosecution details. The jury recommends a stiff sentence. This went to jury. This crime went to jury, and they recommended a stiff sentence. Whew. The prosecutor calls for a strong sentence at a press conference. I can't believe these people. Do we need to look at his upbringing? Do we need to look at his mental history? No, he's grieving. Do we need to look at the known facts? No. Have we reached a decision? Hell yeah. This guy's going for probation for 0 years and 1 month, which is the absolute minimum that I can provide in this scenario. My condolences. I apologize that you had to go to jury, sir. Take care. I will set you up with social services, and hopefully they can allow you to help grieve the death of your mother. Probation. 7 years of probation.
Tethercat said gavels, 1, judicial IQ, 11.
This game, everybody, this game. You gotta love this game. Now it's time for our next case. Remember, it is how much and what kind of information that is important. That was a fast case. Now we got another crime of prostitution. Let's skip this one. Let's skip this one. There we go, everybody. The defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of perjury, which is lying on the stand.
Tethercat said crime, perjury.
Let's take a look at the details of this crime. And we're going to look at the demographics. The offender is a 65-year-old Hispanic Catholic male. The victims are the state and the people. The offender-victim relationship. The offender said that the victims were only those who asked for it. That's odd. 65-year-old guy does perjury. Apparently the victims asked for it. Weapon used physical injury was none. The property damage or loss was none. And the excuse given for this crime of lying to the court. Well, he said he didn't do it, but the victims were the ones who deserved it. That's an interesting stance. How old's this guy? 65. Let's take a look at the offender's criminal record. We're going to take a look at adult prior crime types. Specific crime type of information is unavailable. His prior arrests and convictions. He's had 3 prior recorded arrests. The fugitive status on the day of the crime is that he's clean. Getting a lot of clean individuals here tonight. Let's take a look at the offender's reputation. Apparently he's sexually aberrant. And at age 65, I don't think the juvenile court blotter would factor in. The pre-sentence report will reveal this 65-year-old's details. His personal details are that he is recently married. Congratulations. He chews tobacco, and he is a parochial school graduate. The employment history is that he's a white-collar worker. The courtroom prosecution details. The defendant still claims his innocence. Did he originally claim his innocence? Hold on a sec. I want to go back one. Details of the crime. Excuse him for the crime. Said he didn't do it. Pre-sentence report. Courtroom prosecution. The defendant still claims his innocence. The defendant was defended by a public defender. The offender's upbringing or mental history are irrelevant at the moment. So, I feel that we should look at the known facts, but otherwise it seems like this guy's somewhat clean. In the crime of perjury, which is lying to the courtroom, there was no monetary loss. The offender said that the victims were only those who asked for it, but there was no personal injury. The offender's a 65-year-old man. The victims are the state and the people. He said he didn't do it, and he's clean in record. The offender is sexually aberrant. Although specific crime type of information is unavailable, he has had 3 recorded prior arrests, but no recorded prior convictions. The defendant still claims his innocence. The defendant was defended by a public defender. The offender is recently married, chews tobacco, is a parochial school graduate, and is a white-collar worker. Well, here's what I think. I think that this guy truly does believe he didn't commit perjury. I think that what he thinks he said in the court of law, he believes true. Now, if he is being sentenced for the crime of perjury, it's been proven false. But I think he believes it's true. So I don't think that he's wrong. I think his perception is spot on. He believes he's in the just. He's in the right. He hasn't lied. Unfortunately, facts dictate otherwise. This guy's relatively clean, you know. I'm going to give this guy jail, but I'm not going to make it a harsh sentence. I'm going to give him 2 months of jail. Honestly, I'd give him 1 month, but he did lie. Like, 2 months will allow him to reflect. And I can't let this guy go on probation, not for perjury. It's probably prison worthy, but I'm going to give this guy 2 months of jail and he'll get some reflection and realize where he went wrong. 5.5 months of jail. The judge wanted a little harsher sentence than I gave. Only 3 gavels. You're not ready for this court. You'd be more comfortable on a different bench in Central Park.
Tethercat said gavels, 3, judicial IQ, 24.
Now let's do a hydration check.
Tethercat said hydration check.
The problem with doing a hydration check after eating an entire bowl of Kraft dinner is that there's not a lot of room to do some hydration in there. It's mostly just to soothe the throat. Okay, everyone. Now it's time for our next case. Remember, it is how much and what kind of information that is important. And the crime is auto theft on this one.
Tethercat said crime, auto theft.
There we go. This is a game from 1984, and it was already predicting some Grand Theft Auto. Let's, you know what? I should get back to playing that game because I used to play it, GTA 1969. Anyway. The details of this crime. And we're going to look at the demographics. The offender is a 21-year-old white Catholic woman. The victim was a 53-year-old black woman. The offender-victim relationship, they were confidants. That's interesting. The weapon used in physical injury was none, but the property damage or loss was $1,585. Well, that's auto theft. And the excuse given for this crime by this young woman, she said she needed money. How old is she? 21? Yeah. She said she needed money. Let's look at the offender's criminal record. And we're going to take a look at adult prior crime types. This 21-year-old has had prior crimes including bad checks. Her prior arrests and convictions, 10 recorded prior arrests and 9 recorded prior convictions. And she's only 21 years old, and she's had 9 recorded prior convictions on 10 recorded prior arrests. This gal, this 21-year-old, she's seen some stuff. She's been here. We know her name. The fugitive status on the day of the crime is that she is wanted by the FBI. Whoop, and I skipped the one ahead. So the FBI wants her. The offender's reputation is that she's also known as the Brain. I'll tell you, everybody, if she's had 10 recorded prior arrests and 9 recorded prior convictions, that's a pretty small brain. 21 years old. That is young. Let's look at the pre-sentence report. I'm sure that she's an upstanding individual. We're going to take a look at her personal details. This 21-year-old is married by common law. She smokes marijuana. She's a college freshman. Apparently, convictions aren't keeping this gal away from college. She's a college freshman. Her employment history is that she... The offender is a Army corporal. Wait, what? Okay. This is why I play this game, everybody, because every now and then the cases get a little interesting. The offender is an Army corporal. Court and prosecution details. The defendant threatens the judge. You, of course she does. State commission investigates you for corruption. Why me? I don't do anything. The defendant threatens you, the player. I'm going to go in through that video game and wring your neck, says the defendant. Do we need to look at offender's upbringing or mental history? To be honest, yes. I feel like this 21-year-old, I honestly, I don't think we need to look at it, but I think it's relevant. The offender's upbringing. This 21-year-old, her father had a sex change and the offender was raised in Hollywood. Okay. Her mental history, this 21-year-old, she's a chronic bedwetter. Oh. I wasn't expecting either of those, and I wish I hadn't seen those. And like I said, they don't really play into everything anyway. Let's review the clipboard of justice. The crime is auto theft. The property damage or loss was $1,585. The offender and the victim were confidants. There was no personal injury. The offender is a 21-year-old woman. The victim was a 53-year-old woman. The offender said she needed money. The offender is wanted by the FBI. The offender is also known as the Brain. Prior crimes include bad checks, and she has had 10 recorded prior arrests and 9 recorded prior convictions. The defendant threatens you, the judge. State commission investigates you for corruption. Yeah, whatever. The offender's father had a sex change, and the offender was raised in Hollywood. The offender is a chronic bedwetter. The offender is married by common. That last one, that's a lot to unpack. My. How do we even? Let's... Auto theft. I'd say that's definitely... Okay, first of all, you have to ask yourself, is rehabilitation an option here? She's 21 years old, and she's had 10 recorded prior arrests and 9 recorded prior convictions. I don't think that rehabilitation is likely. Now, she is young, so there could be a certain malleability to it all. But I think she's got to go away for a little bit. She has to go away. I think said that she's wanted by the FBI. She is an Army corporal. We've got to send her to prison. The crime is auto theft for $1,500. I think that if we did 3 years of prison, that would be enough to warrant a high end of auto theft for $1,500. But still, with her threatening the judge, I think that would tack on another 6 months. Thank you very much. And she is wanted by the FBI. With that said, let's see how we scored. Jail for 2 months. That is an incredibly light sentence by this judge, who, I once again remind everybody, she threatened this judge. 2 months, says this judge. Nope, not in my court, I say.
Tethercat said gavels, 1, judicial IQ, 21.
Yeah, that's the way that cookie crumbles. Now, I think it's time for our next case. Remember, it is how much and what kind of information that is important. Oh, here's a serious one. The crime is kidnapping.
Tethercat said crime, kidnapping.
That's not cool. Let's take a look at the details of this serious crime. And we're going to take a look at the demographics. The offender is a 56-year-old white Mormon woman. The victim was a 47-year-old Native American male. The offender-victim relationship is that they were partners. The weapon used physical injury. The victim needed psychiatric treatment. Property damage or loss was $40,000. The excuse given for this crime is that the offender said she needed money to support a drug habit. Wow. How old was she? She was like 56. She was 56 years old. Let's take a look at the offender's criminal record. And we're going to take a look at adult prior crime types for this 56-year-old woman. They include marijuana possession. And she has had 4 recorded prior arrests and 4 recorded prior convictions. Her fugitive status on the day of the crime is that Arizona wants her. And the offender's reputation is that she's a political extremist. Wow. That's interesting. Let's take a look at the pre-sentence report. And we're going to take a look at her personal details. This 56-year-old woman is separated. She doesn't use drugs. And she is a ski school graduate, which is, as I said, the third one of these 3 is always education and where they graduate from. The fact that she graduated from ski school is not very telling of her intellect or education background, per se. The employment history is that she's a white-collar worker. Courtroom prosecution details are that the defendant gave the police information on other serious crimes. The defendant was defended by a private attorney. Do we need to look at the offender's upbringing or mental history? Honestly, I kind of want to go for mental history. I don't think that the offender's upbringing is anything to play, but she did. The victim needs psychiatric treatment. I think that we should look at the mental history of why someone would kidnap another. The offender is kinky. Apparently, that's the mental history. The offender is kinky. It's an interesting twist. Well, let's review the known facts on the clipboard of justice. In the crime of kidnapping, property damage or loss was $40,000. The offender and the victim were partners. The victim needed psychiatric treatment. The offender is a 56-year-old woman. The victim was a 47-year-old male. The offender said she needed money to support a drug habit. Oof. Arizona wants her. The offender is a political extremist. Prior crimes include marijuana possession. She's had 4 recorded prior arrests and convictions. The defendant gave the police information on other serious crimes. The defendant was defended by a private attorney. The offender's mental state is that she is kinky. The offender is separated, doesn't use drugs, is a ski school graduate, and the offender is a white-collar worker. Well. Kidnapping. So right there, I'd say that's pretty much prison. Even if it wasn't prison and it was, say, jail or probation, $20,000, I think it was, and psychiatric treatment. And she said that she needed money to support a drug habit, and she's had 4 recorded prior arrests and convictions for marijuana possession. Yeah, I think she needs to go to prison. The kidnapping aspect. $20,000 and psychiatric treatment. I want to say 8 years of prison. It's just a gut feeling. I can't really justify why it's 8 years of prison. I mean, I just feel that she did wrong. She really did wrong. She should have known better. Yeah, I'm just going to run with 8 years of prison. No more, no less. 15 years, 2 months of prison. Wow. Man, oh man. Hopefully she can regain the help that she oh so deserves in that amount of time. Wow, that's a heavy sentence. I thought mine was heavy. Well, got 5 gavels out of it.
Tethercat said gavels, 5, judicial IQ, 36.
Not bad, you received 5 gavels. Keep practicing. This isn't small claims court. Well, we're still just plugging along. Still just having quite the fun time. I think we should go into the next case. What do you all think? That's great. Now it's time for our next case. Remember, it is how much and what kind of information that is important. And here we are. The defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of insider stock trading.
Tethercat said crime, insider stock trading.
All right. These can sometimes be hefty, so let's take a look at the details of the crime. And we're going to look at the demographics. The offender is a 37-year-old Caucasian male. The victims are the state and the people. The offender-victim relationship. Society is the victim. The weapon used physical injury for insider stock trading. There was none. However, property damage or loss was $500,000. And the excuse given for the crime of insider stock trading is that he said he wanted money to bet on the horses. No doubt. He's 37 years old, betting on those horses. Let's take a look at the offender's criminal record. And we're going to see his adult prior crime types. Those include theft. Of course they do. And his prior arrests and convictions are 6 recorded arrests with only 1 prior recorded conviction. The fugitive status on the day of the crime is that he's a jail escapee. Well, you've, welcome back, sir. The offender's reputation is that he's a Little League coach. Billy, steal third, steal third. No, not like that. Yes, like that. The exit is over there. Keep running. My car is open. Just put it in the back. It's full of items. Steal third. I'll distract them. That's the narrative, everybody. Third base. I don't know. The offender's reputation is that he's a Little League coach. By the way, I'm stifling a large amount of laughter at the moment. The pre-sentence report. For this 37-year-old man, his personal details are that he's cohabiting. He is addicted to caffeine, and he is a criminal justice major. Apparently, this 37-year-old is a criminal justice major. I guess he knows the system. His employment history is that he's a white-collar worker. The court and prosecution details are that evidence showed that the defendant was easily led by his friends. What? A mayoral candidate calls this a test case for the system. Makes no sense. I don't think we need to look at the offender's upbringing. I don't think we need to look at the offender's mental history. So let's review the clipboard of justice. In the crime of insider stock trading, the property damage or loss was $500,000. Society is the victim. There was no personal injury. The offender is a 37-year-old male. The victims are the state and the people. The offender said he wanted money to bet on the horses. The offender is a jail escapee. The offender is also a Little League coach. Prior crimes include theft. The defendant has had 6 recorded prior arrests and 1 recorded prior conviction. Evidence showed that the defendant was easily led by his friends. A mayoral candidate calls this a test case for the system. The offender is cohabiting, is addicted to caffeine, and is a criminal justice major. As well, the offender is a white-collar worker. Whew. Lot to unpack in that one. I still enjoy the narrative that he's a Little League coach and he's a thief and he tells his kid to steal third, and third's full of the $500,000 worth of insider stock trading, but that's just a false narrative that I've constructed. Insider stock trading, $500,000, prison. Yeah, plain and simple. Let's give this guy 5 years. 1 for each $100,000. No, you know what? Let's give him 10 years. 1 for each $50,000 that he stole. Hopefully he can do well on the prison baseball team. Let's see how he scored. Jail for 15 months and 2 days. $500,000. Jail, 15 months, 2 days. Well, you know, I'm sure he can make it back. It's only $500,000. Just a slap on the wrist. Only one gavel. Perhaps we should study medicine.
Tethercat said gavels. 1. Judicial IQ. 32.
Idiotic, I tell you. Idiotic. Bottom of the hour, everybody. Welcome aboard. If you're just playing along, it's the bottom of the hour. Let's take a look at our next case. Remember, it is how much and what kind of information that is important. Ooh, the defendant is to be sentenced for the crime of murder.
Tethercat said crime, murder.
And with all cases, the House rules are that if it's a case involving murder or death, we do not issue the death penalty. The defendant will have to serve a sentence, which is almost never probation, although it has happened. However, with that said, we will look at all details of the crime, no matter how big or small. With that said, let's get into it. Details of the crime. And we're going to look at the demographics. The offender is a 21-year-old black Protestant male. The victim was a 63-year-old black male. The offender-victim relationship, they were strangers. 21-year-old. Kaboop. Sorry about that. 21-year-old was a stranger. The weapon used physical injury. Ooh, the victim was drowned in a bathtub. That's not an accidental discharge of a weapon. That's not. This is intent. This was murder. Straight up murder. The victim was drowned in a bathtub, and they were strangers. Once again, demographics. 61-year-old is a stranger to a 63-year-old. Drowns a 63-year-old in a bathtub. Whew. The property damage or loss was $295. And the excuse given for this crime, he said the reason was pure group pressure. I call bullshit. Let's take a look at the offender's criminal record. This 21-year-old. His adult prior crime types include animal abuse. The prior arrests and convictions are 4 and 2. The fugitive status on the day of the crime is that he left a drug detoxification program. The offender's reputation is that he's a troublemaker. And we need to look at the juvenile court blotter. This 21-year-old's juvenile offenses include joyriding. Already, I'm not liking this guy. Pre-sentence report. The personal details are that this 21-year-old is married, drinks moderately, and has a scholarship. What? The employment history is that he's had 5 jobs in the last 6 months. His courtroom prosecution details, a probation officer recommends probation. Wait, the case is murder. He murdered a stranger in a bathtub. The probation officer recommends probation. Is the probation officer simply trying to earn a paycheck? A radio commentator calls you soft. I'm going to nail this guy's ass to the wall. The offender's upbringing. This 21-year-old was molested by a parent and was born in the Bronx. The mental history is that he has an above-average IQ. Man, I do not want to review the known facts on this one. And yet here we are. Do we choose the death penalty? No. Is he going to prison? Hell is yes. Is rehabilitation an option at age 21? I sincerely do not think rehabilitation is an option. I think incarceration is the option. He straight up murdered a stranger in a bathtub. Normally I would give 15 years. This time I'm giving 18 years. I'm dismayed. I think if anyone is a hazard to society, it is this young man. 21 years old. He's 21, and he's about to learn what half of a life is spent behind bars. Oh. Cases like that make me angry.
Tethercat said gavels, 10 honorary, judicial IQ, 199 honorary.
All right. I'm going to call it. I think that we've concluded as much as we can do in this stream. And with that said, I would like to thank everyone for watching. It's been fun. I always enjoy doing this. It's a shame that not a lot of people hopped
Reed
on tonight.
1914 said person turquoise waving.
Person turquoise waving, and I'm just wrapping the stream up there, Greed, so I apologize. But actually, I'm going to be popping on probably a little bit later and doing a third gorilla stream. It's going to be, I'm assuming, the Pokemon background script. Just something to run. So anyways, I'm going to call it. Everyone take care. Have yourselves a good night. And as always, thanks for watching.
Tethercat said thanks for watching. Tethercat said carrot_carrot.